Good evening. I just got back from the New Worlds Conference. I'll have a few words on that. NASA soliciting new bids for the moon mission. It's got Elon smoking mad. A comparison infographic on the moon landers is also following that. Starlink hit a big milestone, but watch out. Europe plans a huge constellation of its own any day now. A visual NASA startup hits a funding milestone. Orion moves a few more feet towards the goal line. A Chinese company test fires its first reusable. There's a shortage of launch facilities, and Oman wants to help. More on space data centers if we have time, plus a quick visual of the history of the national debt, along with a historical correction from yours truly. From the news desk, the Center of Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And as you know, this program is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. And what do? We're a 501c nonprofit based right here in the USA. We champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space-adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Our pitch events and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor ready. Now, a lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by our listeners and fans like you. So if you just go to cscf.space/support and click that plain as day donate button, a little in the tip jar every month makes a big difference. Now, my longest, oldest space friend, Michael Lane, it just got back in from tending his lotus garden, and he's tired, but he's ready to go. Michael, come on in.
Namaste.
Namaste, sir.
I couldn't resist.
How you doing?
I could not resist that. I'm good.
Good.
How was Texas? What's the story from New Worlds?
Well, okay. Actually, there was a lot of good stuff came out of there. I met some great people. I'm going to get some great contacts especially for some of our events, including a space investment summit that we want to do in Turkey next year. But we might do another one in Texas even earlier. Over the next 12 months. There's just maybe some grant money coming in from Data Texas.
Cool.
But I can't make an official announcement of that until they do. But I'm hearing every Texan in that room was talking about this, so they already know. You know, it's coming in, and they're doubling down. And it's going to be a great day for the state of Texas and for building new companies in the state of Texas. And we at the center actually hope to play a role in that and be a part of it. So yeah, there's a lot to do there.
We are officially domiciled out of Texas. So
yes, we are.
We have a role there. So
yeah,
that'd be great.
Yep.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Otherwise, other than that, the conference is basically it's the New Worlds Conference is always a little bit out there. It's kind of where reality is just one option of many that you can talk about. But
well, I always love it because it's a little on the goofy side. I love their Space Cowboy Ball.
Absolutely.
It's but they also have a serious side, right? They've honored Gwen Shotwell, they've honored Bezos, Pete Warden. Like, they give out an award, and it's kind of a big deal to get that award. I want it myself, which is why I think it's a big deal. I don't want every award out there in the industry, but I want a New Worlds one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I like that crowd. There's surprising amount of money floating in that room, right? The Tetris founder is there. One sir is usually there. There's sometimes two sirs, two knights.
Yep. They hit a Firefly this time. He was there.
Who?
the head guy at Firefly.
Firefly, yeah, great. Oh,
Yeah,
Beck, yeah,
I think he got the Space Cowboy Award this year. So,
great. Yeah.
yeah, he had a lot to say.
So two different sirs, and that's actually the one that I was thinking about another one. So, royalty. It's kind of nice to
Yeah, and it's
hang with
always good
royalty.
when you got Tomlinson and Frank White doing a fireside chat with each other.
Yeah,
The stuff that grows out of that is really kind of inspiring. So
it is right.
but then
Reverend
you got the
Rick,
guys that want to build a giant parasol to cover the Earth to protect us from climate change. It's
I've
like,
been
yeah,
hearing about that. Yeah,
okay, but 30,000 miles across and million lunar materials and cost you $2 trillion. Okay,
but
well,
other than that, it's a great idea.
it's all about the money. If you can get it to spend,
Yeah.
good luck. I think we just plant trees. I think it'd just be easier. We just plant 1 trillion trees. It'd be faster. But everybody's got their thing, so it's all on the table. Everybody talks about it. So I don't know if you guys covered this, last time on the last show, but there was this because this is from a week ago. Space Daily article. Supposedly U.S. and NASA soliciting new bids for the moon mission because there were SpaceX delays.
Yep.
Yeah, and so you got that going for you, and of course that was
Yeah,
shot.
no, we didn't talk about this one. I kind of love it actually.
Especially the follow up link. Yeah, Elon Musk is furious about that. He thinks there's nothing wrong with the program. We'll get there. We'll get there in time. And he made a reference. If we go to the next one, he referred to Sean Duffy as Sean Dummy.
Dummy.
And
yeah,
he was. And I kind of there we go. There we go. It's click off of that. Yeah, that's the problem with Business Insider. They just want to. You probably just hit the escape button. Learn more. Go. Yeah. No. Now you're going the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yep.
It was the escape key that was actually to get out of that pop up. But
yeah.
Nothing. But if nothing else.
Yeah. So Sean Dummy is trying to kill NASA. I mean, that's about as much hyperbole as you can get in a sentence.
I have heard that from some people.
I don't know why that works.
There's all sorts of crazy rumors going around that they're actually trying to privatize NASA.
Yeah, so that's insane.
It's tinfoil stuff, but that's being bandied about as well.
Right. I mean, I have been in 2 different events in the last 6 months where people with a straight face ask, what good is NASA? What good do we get out of NASA? And I seriously want to punch them.
But you have to have your answers queued up and ready to go.
You do. Yeah, you do. You do need to have an answer and a response. And the glory days of 50, 60 years ago is not a good enough answer. And I don't go to that. I don't go to, we went to the moon. Well, what have you done for us lately? Well, we've done a lot lately, so check yourself. So
okay,
I'm a big fan of NASA. I think it's insane that people want to talk about privatizing it. I think a dust up between Musk and Duffy is stupid. I think both of them are stupid in this context.
Yeah.
I would really like there to be an adult in the room. I mean, it seems to be missing these days.
They may or may not get one. Maybe that's the problem too. I don't know.
Did you know what this means? Quote, this is Musk. Someone whose biggest claim to fame is climbing trees. Do you know what that means? Like, it's supposed to be he did some sort of like speed championship of climbing trees. Really? He did that?
I don't know if that's what it was.
What does that mean?
Yeah, but it's like the one thing you could point to and say, yeah, I in my youth I did something like this, and it was,
Wow.
So, but it's not the same as, hey, I trained as a test pilot to go, and fly off carrier decks and do other things. Yeah, I climbed trees.
Huh.
And now
Okay.
he's Secretary of Transportation.
All right. Well,
You've had less qualified people in government jobs, trust me.
I am reserving judgment, but what Duffy said a couple weeks ago about focusing on the moon, focusing on power in nuke power on the moon, until Musk has a better plan than that, and so far he doesn't. I'm gonna give Duffy benefit of the doubt.
Yep.
I was super wrong about Bridenstine, and I'm not willing to make that error twice. So I'm going to give the guy some time, one way or the other.
Sure.
I do like the idea that Isaacman is still being considered. He has my vote, but I'm trying to give the guy who's actually in charge benefit of the doubt while he's in charge.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like watching high school teenagers arguing. It's just
right.
Just as a throw-in, Aiden's here. Hi, Aiden. Glad to see you here. And he was asking, do you think NASA should send a new mission to the outer solar system and beyond? Well, of course. I mean, part of NASA's job is supposed to be to explore the solar system and beyond. So, And so, they should be doing things like that. There are other things they should not be doing, like, and we've talked about those. And then if they didn't do those things, they'd have the budget to do the good things, wouldn't they?
Right. Yeah.
Funny how that
if
works.
They didn't do SLS, they'd have money to go to, the moons of Saturn, right?
Right. Or the moons of Neptune.
Yeah.
Something. Get out there.
Guillermo was talking about humans on Venus, which I used to think was ridiculous, and now I'm reconsidering that.
He had a great presentation. It was like almost at the end of the day on Saturday. I had to take a nap first before I could go in there, and I had to see him. I had a great talk with him there too at the conference, and he mentioned us in one of his posts, and so it's all good. I'm hoping to have him on again sometime. He is definitely not interested in doing a fund with us, though. He's really not. He's focusing on Venus.
He doesn't want to do a fund.
No, he doesn't want to do a fund, and he's going to be meeting with Stephen Fleming this week.
Oh, okay.
Up in Georgia. So, but I don't think that's going to lead to anything. He was pretty adamant. I don't want to do a fund anymore.
I don't want to do a fund. Well, that's too bad. That's a missed opportunity.
Stephen's doing a fund. Stephen wants to do a fund, really. It's like, no.
No.
I tried.
All right. Well, I'm not willing to let that just wither on the vine. I want to do something with that.
Yep. No, we're
Jason made a good point, right? NASA, I think, should push the boundaries that corporations cannot, that individuals can't, right?
Yeah.
Like they should go where there's no business case whatsoever to push into the far solar system. And they should be going there. Yeah, absolutely.
And again, the easiest answer to all the people want to say that NASA's a waste of money. They only spend about 1/3 of 1% of our entire national outlay when the government's open. Yeah. And so that's so please don't tell me again about how NASA wastes money when you've got almost $1 trillion going into a military industrial complex.
And $1 trillion going into service the debt that we have.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That is $2 trillion with two topics. The debt service and the military. So $2 trillion.
$2 trillion that we
out of what? I think the number is seven total available.
Yeah.
And we spent 2 on things that I disagree with.
Yeah, so, pretty much entirely. Yeah. But you put up that thing. You sent me that thing for the history of the national debt.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to throw this out there really quickly because either will kind of end of the list. But I want to throw it in there since we mentioned it.
Sure.
And so we're at $37 trillion. Well, way back when in 1837, the article says that, Andrew Jackson almost fully paid off the national debt. And supposedly it caused a panic. This is not true. That paragraph is entirely not true. Because I read a book written by Murray Rothbard long ago about the Great Depression and what the true causes of the Depression were. Before we had a central bank, we had once every few decades we had a short-lived panic. There'd be something would go on with the economics, and and the banks were having problems, and the people were having problems.
Yeah.
And they said, well, that led paying off the national debt led to the panic of 1837 because there was a real estate bubble. No. Here's what really happened. Up until the end of 1836, we had a central bank. We had the central bank almost at the founding of this country. Thomas D. Lorenzo wrote a book on it called Hamilton's Curse. And we got rid of the central bank, the first bank of the USA, sometime in the 18 teens. And then we didn't have one for a while. And then somehow in the 1820s or early 30s, we got one again. And Andrew Jackson thought it was a den of thieves, which it was. And he was determined to shut it down. He said literally in writing, I will rout you out. And he routed them out. And he did not renew the charter for the second bank of the U.S. at the end of 1836. And that led to supposedly the Panic of 1837. Well, the Panic, the people who don't know their history, which is most people, the Panic of 1837 lasted less than a year. And all a panic does is let you purge the malinvestment from the system. That's what panics do. There was another one somewhere in the 1880s. And then there was one, you probably don't know we had a panic in 1921, did you? You probably didn't know that. Because we had a panic in 1921. The Fed was in place, but it wasn't really doing anything. So it couldn't do any harm yet. And so they had, and that panic lasted less than a year. That was on Warren Harding's watch. But then the 20s roared after that. And we got more malinvestment into the system. But then after 1931, the Fed had to do something.
Right.
And so the Depression went from this to this.
Right.
That's a different show. But I just wanted to throw that out there. No, it wasn't malinvestment in the real estate sector. It was Andrew Jackson shutting down the second bank of the United States.
Okay. Well, I just want to harp on the $1 trillion a year in debt service.
Yes.
That is completely unsustainable. And at 20% of our total revenues, more than 20% of our total revenues, that's a problem. So
yeah. But somehow we can't do debt restructuring like we do under a Chapter 11 or a Chapter 13. Right. Are we just going to end up having a going out of business sale?
Yeah, apparently that's the plan. Certainly working at DC these days. Let's move on to space.
Yes, please.
All right.
I don't know if you want to show this. We have an infographic on the landers.
Yeah, I like
lander options that they're talking about.
Yeah.
And you could see it this very quickly for a few seconds. You can just see how Starship is like this, and
right.
The other guys are like this. But there was some debate, which I was in the thick of, over whether without a landing pad could Starship land on the moon safely and not tip over. And
I wonder about that. We've talked about it before on this show several times, right?
Well, there was rampant argument about that, on just outside the main show area. A lot of people were arguing about that and waving their arms. And so yeah, the jury's still out clearly, but that's a competitive element we're looking at.
The folks at the New Worlds, they're not your rando space nerd, live long and prosper. They're deep in the sector. They're deep in the field, and they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So
most of them.
They are, engineers extraordinaire. Gary Hudson is often there. He's one of the pioneers in this sector. Yeah. So I thought this was pretty interesting. I did not realize just what the difference was between these spacecraft. I love this, the landing module comparative to Blue Origin. I didn't realize it was less than half the size, but Jesus, Starship, if you can make that beast work, hats off to you if you can pull that off. So
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought this was a really useful
Right.
infographic. Yeah.
And speaking of Musk companies, I guess there was a milestone for Starlink satellites. Like 10,000 of them now,
Mm-hmm.
and just in fact they just launched another 28 on a Falcon 9 just this week. But wait for it.
Wait for it.
Yep, that's the 5th anniversary of their first customer. So they had their first customer 5 years ago, I guess. So there was that one.
Yeah.
But there's
a lot in this article.
Yeah. Hey, but the other thing is, Europe. I love how they put this thing. Europe plans a satellite powerhouse to rival Musk. And they're just now. Look, these guys are just now getting with the program of reusables. Just now. And they've got like 2 companies who are just barely doing something, and they're just struggling to get off the ground. But they're saying yes, we need to compete with Musk, and now we're going to do it. Now we're going to do it with constellations as well. And it's all going to happen any minute now, And
any minute now.
I swear there are some guys at NASA and there's some guys at ESA. They both are descendants of Baghdad Bob. With some of the projections they're doing, it's like, come on. I just went through this for a weekend. I mean, there's a lot of hardcore people show up at New Worlds, but there's also a much greater fringe contingent that's attracted to New Worlds for a lot of reasons. Right, and they're the ones that show up to the Space Cowboy Ball in some very wild costumes, and
super fun. Super fun, but a little kind of it attracts weirdos, and Tom and I, we were original weirdos at the Space Frontier Foundation, so this is just an extension of that.
We were original weirdos at NSS when we helped found the business track.
Yep.
No, they didn't want to do a business track. We kind of almost forced them into it. And it was actually, very successful for a very long time. They let it go for a while. Now I've brought it back.
Yep.
And they love it. The new younger generation loves it. Of board members, a lot of the old mock backs have died off or retired out, or
all those Space Gen kids. Yep. We love them. All right, let's keep going and move on quick.
Okay. Here's a money thing. A visual navigation startup named Vermeer secured a major funding round recently. I've never heard of these guys. They're looks like they're a software play, but yeah,
10 million Series A, solid.
Yep. And from the imagery, it looks like they're doing it as a they intend to have the military as a customer. Vermeer has headquarters in New York and forward operations in Kiev. Yeah, okay, I get it. But I just know. But the thing I noted was this investment round was led by Draper Associates.
Oh, cool.
So, and High Point Ventures, I've heard of them, and U.S. Air Force Techstars. So, but they're expanding. Basically, they've already got a built-in customers. They're collaborating with the military, NATO allies, and Ukraine Armed Forces. And so there's an optical navigation platform for defense, and they're coming up with a new visual positioning system, offering drones and aerial vehicles a navigation solution that eliminates reliance on conventional GPS. They're using electro-optical or infrared cameras.
All right. Kind of the last thing to talk about is, and I have a hunch, and we saved this for last on purpose, that our guest is going to have something to say about data centers in space. Now, we've been talking about data centers in space for months now. What I like is that it's gaining attention at CNN level, at kind of national national strategy conversation level, which we don't usually get. We don't usually get our level of news at the level of CNN. So I was pretty pleased by that. It's a reasonably accurate article. I don't usually have a lot of confidence in CNN's space community because they don't always know what they're talking about. So this was pretty good, I thought. I do have some doubts. You know, they've got our friends Lone Star in here. I think that one's really good. StarCloud, our Washington State-based one. I don't have the same confidence in StarCloud that I do in some of the others, but you know, it's Philip Johnson is always going to get the media to interview him and get a quote, so he's very good at that job.
Yeah.
I think data centers the size of shipping containers is 100% the wrong approach, but
given that we're such huge fans of shipping containers.
Right, I am a big fan of shipping containers. This is not how to use them. So we're going to have a guest on the show in a couple weeks that I think will change people's minds about big versus little. And I suspect we're going to have, you know, microwave sized data centers in the early days.
Okay. We have a couple more things, but we can save those for another time. You know, Oman wants to build a spaceport. Okay, that'll keep. And a private company, semi-private company, I should say, in China did a test on what they claim is going to be a reusable rocket. And I'd like to get more data about that. We can talk about that later, because I think we should. I think on the funding side, we should be bringing in our guests right now. Yeah. And so we want to bring in Christopher Lay. He does a lot of things, but he's the founder of Actuate Ventures, and he identifies promising startups and guides them towards strategic growth and market disruption. And he does a lot of disruptive things. I follow him religiously. I love all the stuff that he does. But he said something. He mentioned something today. I think it was today or yesterday that you mentioned, Michael, on LinkedIn, where he said that the lunar investment, the lunar economy investment that's going on, it's going to eclipse Earth sooner than later. It'll just make more sense to invest in the moon and beyond than it will Earth. And I want to hear him explain himself on that one. I think this should be great. So Christopher Lay, join us, please.
Well, hello.
Hey,
how you doing, man?
Hello.
Hello, it's been a while.
Are you rested from your travels and Space Week and AI Week and more Space Week and
AI Week is still going on, so no.
Yeah. I'm going to events tomorrow. Yep, I went to events yesterday. I went to events last week. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff going on these days.
If I went to every major tech week, I would not, starting with LA or SF Deep Tech Week, I would not be home until Christmas.
Okay, maybe you want to get your own job done instead. How about that?
Yeah,
listen, I've been to 6 conferences already. I've been to six conferences already this year. There's a 7th coming up in my own neighborhood. Fortunately, first of next week. Someone was trying to talk me to go to another one in the Bay Area in December, and I can't. I just can't. I need to sit down and crank out some stuff, and I should make a point. So
even VCs actually have to work, and it's not.
Yes,
it's not just events and deal sourcing. Our good friend out TechCrunch Disrupt is happening right now, and
Charter.
Plenty of people out on stage. Charter Space, one of our small investments, they're currently going to the semifinals. And then our friends, not an investment, Orbital Robotics, Aaron Bodgers and Doug Cole are taking stage, and they've been ripping it.
Nice.
Since they started not too long ago. So it's very exciting to see them take front and center stage with all of this. But again, thank you for having me on the show. For those who aren't familiar, I am managing partner at Actuate Ventures. We're a VC firm focused on deep tech and space tech. So And I'm based out in Seattle, not too far from Michael.
Okay. But you made an interesting comment just recently on LinkedIn, and Michael actually mentioned it. I saw him forward it and make comment, which was the idea that I think the sector investment in the lunar economy and beyond is going to eclipse anything that's going to be happening on Earth in the not too distant future. I know everybody who watches this show, everybody who listens to us, are going to basically be really, who are in the investment community, are going to be really thrilled to hear that prognostication from you, because that's where they're putting their resources. They want to open up the moon and do a lot of things. So
absolutely. No,
let's elaborate on that.
I may have spat out that comic, and for all the audience members, do selfishly follow me on my LinkedIn. That's my primary social media at this point in life.
I'll put your link up in a second.
Absolutely. So I do a Sunday comic out of decompression, and
Yeah, you draw that, right?
I do draw that.
Yeah.
Haphazardly in Illustrator with a mouse and keyboard. And I may have planted that for this very show. So
well, you called out Interloon and Firefly and us as if we were equals. So shout out to you for that, because that's super fun. Thank you. I don't usually get lumped into that crowd, but so thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. The eye on the lunar economy and having great discussions with other VCs in the space is that there are things that are far out, things that those with discipline, frankly, will not invest in for right reasons. And for those at home, VC funds are bound by their general thesis. They get investments from what are called limited partners. Limited partners can get very angry and litigious if you just start like, oh, here's an actual moonshot project. So I do know people who very much support Interloon, for example, but they are bound to not invest in them. That is nothing against Interloon. It has to do with their thesis.
Their thesis, and they'll get sued if they do.
Yeah. Sometimes you can get away with something, but better not get on the wrong side of lawyers.
Yeah.
But there are aspects in which Actuate, Andrew on my team, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, we're looking at the cislunar economy in ways that make sense, in a commercialization play, in a thing that is much more along the lines of a 10 to 12 year horizon. We don't have to talk about the SpaceX's, the Blue Origins, the 20, 30 year projects that take a long time and a massive amount of capital to return. And Michael, you and I can talk about all of the amazing lunar startups who are not the Interloons of the world. Not including yourself, of course. And frankly, when we look at them, they have much stronger return potential that you could see in the 10 to 12 year horizon. Things such as a microgravity testing environment. Companies like Space Copy have very interesting things. Of course, tons of defense oriented things, space domain awareness. We are in a new space race, and I want to clarify from my perspective. The first space race was not a space race. It was a nukes and ICBM race. We are actually in a space for space race now.
Right.
That is a major differentiator. We have enemies and allies and unknowns happening up above us, which we don't have full awareness of, and therefore is a gap in many of the national security aspects, which are getting a lot of funding. This is space for space, and is the start. The lunar economy and beyond, I really do think will eclipse Earth economies. And in that microcosm, I think some of them will happen sooner than later. And we can only take a shot in the dark of what's coming, but I would love to hear your thoughts too.
Well, what kind of timeline are we talking about for that? A
Um,
decade, multiple decades, somewhere in between.
so for the sexy sci-fi-esque ones, you know, moon colonies and things, we are decades away from that. This is
Okay.
a very hard problem to deal with, but I do imagine that we will have testing services, biotesting services in the next decade, maybe decade and a half, that will provide unparalleled new avenues of biopharmaceutical avenues that will then translate to discoveries here on Earth, because we go like, hey, we need to go do a thing in an environment that is very unique, and that will create a very synergistic effect where we will have to discover new things. Space to space nerds, and to your earlier point on why NASA, what role does NASA have to play? It's about unlocking things we don't know.
Right.
I am a huge proponent of NASA. I'm a huge proponent of pure science. We don't get LASIK without the modern LASIK algorithms without space shuttle. We don't get my Tempur-Pedic mattress without astronaut suits. We don't get Mylar, which lines my backpacking
Right. My
sleeping pad.
You
Right.
both know my mom had a heart event. You don't get pacemaker tech. You don't get specialty IVs, right? All of that stuff. Like, we live in a better world because we went to the moon.
Well,
50
you
years
don't
ago.
get Lexan. I mean, there's also just things, gross things, big things in material science.
Yeah.
That came out of the fundamental research going all the way back to the late 50s.
And even beyond the fundamental research, I want to put a feather in the cap that VCs are pretty okay at taking shots in the dark for near-ish term things. The markets and all this capitalism and magic hands. We are very terrible about the things beyond our lifetime. If it was in the private market, and you know, this is seeming anathema coming from where I sit in the world, we would not fund Einstein if he says, look, I'm doing this thing and we're predicting, you know, time dilation. I was like, what's the practical use case? To my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, the first practical application of Einstein's relativity happened 5 years after his death.
Yeah, you couldn't have predicted GPS that came out of those same papers, but you'd be a trillionaire if you could have pre-funded GPS, right? So,
or lasers.
Right. Yeah. So let's kind of bring it back a little bit to your original idea of the space economy will eventually be bigger than the Earth economy. There's 6 space station companies. 2 of them are not doing great. The other 4 are reasonably solid, reasonably well-funded, have a shot. So what does that look like when you're trying to model out the near future? How many people do you think are going to be operating in space on a minute-by-minute basis, say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, assuming some of the space station companies succeed?
In a decade from now, I still don't expect more than 100 people. I would be very idealistic.
Okay, but you think there could be 100 people concurrently living in space in just 10 years?
Yes.
Do you know how freaking crazy that sounds? I love that.
The majority,
it's overdue, actually.
But we're like a quarter of the way there. If you fill the space station, that's like a dozen people, and then the Chinese space station, that's another dozen people. You're a quarter of the way there. Now, India is launching their rapidly investing in their space program. The rest of the EU is not sitting far behind. Canada and Australia, New Zealand are definitely going hand in hand. These Commonwealth folks, right? These are nation states,
right?
And then you toss in a couple of folks from Vast and Gravitics and Blue. I think we could hit 100. Now, how stable that 100 is, very different type of environment prediction.
So let's stick with 100 people 10 years from now concurrently living in space in a variety of space stations. Does that get us, or do you have an equal 100 on the moon, or is that too many? Is that a bridge too far?
That's a bridge too far for me.
Okay. All right. So what do we have on the moon globally? China plus America plus everybody else.
I believe if you're looking at current mission timelines is whatever Artemis and others are doing. So just a small handful of people temporarily and then going back.
Camping, not a settlement, not a research center, camping, going and coming back.
We will have robots galore for the good near future.
Okay.
The lunar environment, and maybe an easier environment to look at, is the Martian one, and then our good friend James Burke at Mars Society. They're doing some incredible things, and here on Earth to test that environment out on the Mars, and there's still tons of unknowns. And I'm not trying to like sugarcoat this, but the moon is really hard. Yeah. Mars is already hard. Getting to Mars, right? That's right. That. Let's ignore getting to Mars. Being on Mars is hard. Moon is harder in many respects. Less known available resources in quick aggregate compared to that. We can siphon the atmosphere from Mars, right? Today, like college PhD students have been doing this for a while. The moon, you're like, hey, does regolith have any water, or like, okay, or lunar regolith? Like, okay.
So Jason,
maybe idealistically, like maybe like 3 people.
Really?
Short,
okay. That's more pessimistic than I'm used to you saying. Okay.
God, we thought we were bad.
Okay.
Listen to this.
Jason,
3 people.
I'm thinking
3.
Advanced
camping trip. Seems low to me, but okay.
Well, it's more. What is the stable number? You have HLS. You have Starship. They land. They might have like half a dozen. I have been inside of HL, like the blue mock-up. Let's say Let's say a half a dozen people. And then 3, they cycle 3 to go up and down. So that's what I'm thinking. 3 relatively stable, and optimistically, and then by the end of the 2040s, that's a very different conversation.
Okay. All right.
As we start getting those domino infrastructure pieces in place.
Sure.
That's the key to it, right? It's the infrastructure or nothing, right? You've got to build that up.
Yeah. And speaking to that, we have a whole bunch of questions here. They're all from Jason, but Jason's with us. He's talking
Jason's
about
on fire today.
He's talking about what might be the turning point of all this. Is it materials processing? Is it manufacturing? Things of that nature. What's going to drive that push to have the cislunar economy eclipse the Earth economy for investment and business development?
It is going to be whoever creates the shipping channel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we're kind of looking at the killer app here. It's
you need a way. You can do as much as you want on the moon, right? How do you get it back? How do you get it off the moon? You don't have to get it back to Earth. Let's ignore the Earth, right? Blue Ring, other space tugs, space ports, folks at Black Star Orbital Inversion. They want to do all these interesting things around orbital, whether it's lunar or otherwise, and then all this stuff in between. the inflection point for the economy is essentially, can I produce a thing and actually deliver the thing?
Right.
The majority of the cost of your good should not be in shipping.
Yeah.
Right.
And the moment that you hit that 1-to-1 ratio, things are going to be on fire in a good way.
Sure.
Awesome.
So that got me thinking. What if, because we were talking about down mass a lot, and so I there are people working on that, and we get it. But for getting stuff off the moon, like you say, would it be worthwhile to revisit the concept of Jerry O'Neill's mass driver?
It 100% is. I'm just going to take this from Chris for a second. I just spent an hour and a half today and an hour on Friday and an hour last week on Friday with some folks in DC. Mass driver is the partnership between an elevator and the mass driver is unstoppable. So I'm just going to take that one because I know this one inside and out. So, Chris, would you like to answer since you're the guest?
I think I'm unqualified compared to say. Let's get Mike Grace on here, but I think he's busy being the master of a giant gun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, mass drivers are certainly one thing, but I actually think that's incomplete in a way that a mass driver is great for, say, let's go from the moon to an expanse style. Let's send it to Jupiter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really thinking moon around the moon is way easier, right? We got our astronauts back. We know that this is not a very high energetic environment that we need to overcome. If anything, I would rather see a mass driver here on Earth because that unlocks things here on Earth. If you talk to James Penna and Mike Grace, how do you get shipping something from Seattle to Tokyo as cheap as freight, right? It's not about like, oh, let's go to space. It's literally, can we just kind of ballistically send this, right?
Right.
On the moon, I'm thinking, how do we get major transportation of goods to, say, future space stations?
Mm-hmm.
The road to space that Bezos and my alum at Blue, the millions of people living and working in space, and Blue's other creed is building the road to space, which, as much as I love Blue, it's a private road to space that they're building.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're tossing in a couple of companies, right? But you don't feel like it's a private shipping channel when you use FedEx,
right? Or the Panama Canal, right?
Yeah. We need to build as a society a public road to space. And when you have that inflection, then you can start dreaming about how do we build these hotels? Because when you talk to Vast and all these other folks, they essentially have to rely on their own materials, and then the only other player is basically SpaceX to launch.
Right. That makes it challenging, but opens some doors. Let's bring us back to home for a second and drill really into the Actuate's thesis. What do you write checks on? Whom do you write them to? Why? How does somebody convince Chris and Andrew to take a meeting? Not necessarily write a check, but like, what do you look for? What's your thesis that your investors are like, yeah, go crazy, do what you're going to do? Tell us about that.
So let me just crank up the brightness on this because there we go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I was like, oh, the sun's already setting on my side. I faced north.
The sun was going straight into my eyes earlier.
Can't change orbital mechanics. So Actuate is a new VC firm. We are writing relatively small boutique checks out of the firm right now. But ideally, when everything is set and done, we will be deploying to about 15 companies to start 2 to 300K checks, float up or down, depending. That's our and the rest of the key parts of the thesis are deep tech and space tech. I focus a lot on the space tech aspect. Deep tech has to be complementary in our view to space tech. So, for instance, we wrote a small check into Tribe Magnetics the other month. They are a novel chip technology using spintronics, so nanomagnetic chip. It has naturally radiation resistant properties.
Cool.
So, and the other end of that is it is substantially lower power consumption and higher stability. So, in fact, the other investor on the table was Snowcap. They're a climate-oriented fund.
Okay.
So there are strong complements to both our focus and others. We are not just focused on space for space. And to catch our attention, we really like grounded founders who are thinking about that 10-year horizon, that 12-year horizon, and how do you create a value stream which is healthy. We're not in it for these ultra moonshots because one, we can't sustain that ourselves as a firm. That's fully transparent. The other is we also recognize there's incredible value for companies that are eyeing the earth in alternative applications. There are companies in our portfolio which are, say, UltraView AI. They're doing inspection. They have a drone that inspects aircraft and spacecraft. They had a pilot with Blue Origin, but the idea is, can you take? They want to take They're already piloting taking a 200 labor hour operation down to 1 hour for first pass visual inspection. That will help dramatically improve the safety of and maintain the safety of flight for here on Earth. Great. That's a stable revenue source for grander visions abroad.
So how do your educate our audience? I've had to learn this the hard way. Your GPs, you're the GP, and your limited partners, you're the general partner, and your limited partners are ultimately the guys who write the checks and kind of give you the the wherewithal to go, do what you do. So talk about them, because that's a piece of the ecosystem a lot of us don't really understand, don't have a lot of knowledge on.
Yeah. So first off, I'm a multi-time founder, so I also had to learn this the hard way. But so coming and creating a VC firm was a lot more natural outcome of going, okay, I already understand these words and these pieces of logic that they use. They being the VC community, the LPs, the GPs. And for new founders, VCs are not a pile of money. They
Darn.
yeah. And most VCs are actually not loaded. You are much better off going to a PE firm or a corporate if you want seemingly gigantic pocketbooks or checkbooks. VCs, they create funds. They solicit from LPs, limited partners, to then put money into a fund. It's actually fairly discouraged for the VCs themselves to put a lot of their own capital because it signals to LPs that other than just writing checks, the GPs, the general partners or the managing partners, don't know essentially what they're doing. Anyone with a big checkbook can write a check, or a big bank can write a check.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to pick winners and they have this existential drive. Like, I have to satisfy my LPs
Right.
to then maintain a relationship so I can get to the next fund, which is larger, and the fund after that, and then I can make plays into, say, a Vast or and Vast is or a Stoke.
Yeah.
And in fact, they are so large that we as a firm can't. I don't see a reasonable way to write a check into them.
No. They did a 400 million raise.
600.
That's 600. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Corrected.
I haven't looked onto the table, the cap table of other investors, but I doubt that their smallest check, I would be, it would not surprise me.
Plus.
Yeah, most new and emerging managers would be larger than their entire fund.
Yeah.
Which is not a good thing. So if this new wave of thematic or specialist VCs, such as myself, you want to catch attention, you're not talking to a financier, you're talking to likely another operator. So be human and drive home the fact that you want to be a good founder, how, and you're on a pathway. Either you were a great founder in another aspect, Groupon going and doing Boom.
Right.
Yeah, that seemingly left field. Yeah, but
make your money somewhere else and then come back to space. That's
his LinkedIn is great.
That's the only proven model. By the way, we only have 3 minutes left.
Okay, so I'll close out just saying, you want to catch our attention, feel free to email us at launch@actuate.co, and I read every email that goes through it. Whether I necessarily will respond, because we do get a lot of that just completely fluffy pitches in completely different industries. Right. But if you are a space one and you are authentic to yourself and what you're thinking you want to do, I will personally respond.
Okay. Love that. All right. We talked a little bit about the future. We usually talk about what does 5 years look like? What does 25 years look like? I feel like that's kind of covered, but is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't? Like, what does 5 years look like if you are writing checks? Your fund is a $2 million, $3 million fund now. I suspect you're going to have bigger funds down the road. What does that look like?
5-year horizon.
Yeah.
We are looking at the next wave of infrastructure startups. We are at the cusp. In 5 years, I suspect plenty of alums from SpaceX, Blue, and other companies who are getting their liquidation, hopefully, or just building up their war chest, will start looking at the confluence of the different technologies that allow them to start building things like the dry docks of the future, shipping lanes. We don't necessarily have that right now, but the precursors to that, Negar at Space Dock, basically the USB connector for satellites, that will then enable things. We don't have the PC of satellites. You can't just go and kind of build a PC satellite. Right. How do we start unlocking those aspects? And the people today on the ground floor, many of those precursors are being built. Yeah. The other thing which will continue is new sensors and new technologies that will enable different types of imaging and data collection. I think that one's going to be solid for a long, long time. So anyone that wants to create a space startup starting in 5 years, those are two avenues I think will catch a lot of investors' attention, or just growth attention. You don't have to just target investors, right?
Okay.
Cool.
On that, Christopher Lay, Actuate Ventures, space economic visionary, and killer graphic designer. Thank you for being on, man. Look, it's always great having you. I hope we'll do this again sometime very soon.
Absolutely, and I promise to bring Andrew. Make sure he's not having a thing going on.
We're having bets whether he exists.
Yeah,
I've got to be honest with you.
So twice on this show, he's a no-show, and we've had a meeting 3 times, and he's never been on the meeting. So I'm not sure Andrew exists. I'm just saying.
I just Photoshop him into every LinkedIn thing.
Right, he's like the Remington Steele of Actuate.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, thanks
for being here, man.
Stick around for a second. Okay.
Yep. And all that Thursday, we're still nailing down a guest. We don't have them yet, but we've got a few in the pipeline. So hopefully we're going to get lucky in the next couple of days. Sean is great at that. So we'll announce it. Stay tuned. Watch your social media for an announcement on that. But if not, then hey, we have lots of news we can talk about, lots of different ideas we can gather around with our infrastructure of friends here. And that's always a lively conversation full of hearsay and innuendo and general tomfoolery. So stay tuned, 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. And on that note, for Michael Lane and Sean Key, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.